Coming up, she received the Barbara Marx Hubbard Outstanding Evolutionary Leader Award, and she helps people increase their clarity, confidence, inner peace, and happiness. But first, welcome to Imagine Peace, the podcast that invites you on a transformative journey toward a world filled with harmony and understanding. Together, let's ignite the flame of peace within ourselves and radiate it outward so we can have a future where unity prevails. This is Imagine Peace, where dreams become reality. Join us as we explore the power of compassion, the beauty of diversity, and the potential for positive change. Hello and welcome to Imagine Peace. I am MarBeth Dunn, and I'm here with my fellow director, Kumari Mullen. We are directors for 10 Million for World Peace, which is sponsoring our Imagine Peace podcast. And today we have an amazing guest, Rene Sheppard, Dr. Valerie Rene Sheppard. And I'm so excited that she is joining us today. Dr. Valerie helps people increase their clarity, confidence, inner peace, and happiness using a self-mastery process detailed in her #1 international best-selling book and proven curriculum. She works one-on-one in groups and multi-day intensives with C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and emerging adults. Dr. Valerie is a certified master trainer with a Ph.D. in consciousness and human potential. She received the Barbara Marx Hubbard Outstanding Evolutionary Leader Award and the Education 2.0 Visionary Award. So, Valerie, I am just so excited to have you here finally on our show. I'm MarBeth Dunn, and welcome to Imagine Peace. This is our podcast, which is brought to you by 10 Million for worldpeace.org. So do check us out. So Valerie, how does self-mastery help you create more peace on the planet?
Hi, MarBeth. Hi, Kumari. I'm very pleased to be here. Love this topic about imagining peace, and I'm all about creating more of it on the planet. So how does self-mastery help do that? Well, the self-mastery definition that I use is mastering yourself and your life so that you can exquisitely manage whatever your life brings your way. And self-mastery is kind of how we manage our reaction versus our response to the different dynamics going on in our lives. And since our lives can bring a bunch of stuff that we don't really want, that we're not really prepared for, that we'd really rather have go away, having the ability to manage how we deal with those situations, how we live through them, how we answer them, how we rise to the occasion, how we, bounce forward instead of just bouncing back. That's how we keep ourselves in a higher vibration. That's how, even in the midst of really crazy things, we can stay in neutral or at a higher vibration or in our own state of peace and grace in the midst of difficult times. And so that's how we create more peace on the planet, through self-mastery. I have a quote that I tell my clients and students: your own healing changes the world. And by being able to create peace within them, they are adding another vibration of peace into the world.
Well, I know you've gone through some incredibly difficult situations, and look at you, you've bounced back, you're smiling, you're resilient, and I just have to say kudos to you, because you are an amazing woman.
You know what's so interesting, MarBeth, is when people talk to me about the brain hemorrhage, and they say how they notice how well I've done after it. You can't always see everything I'm going through, but it is true. I've done very well. And coming from the first day where I woke up after the coma and I couldn't speak and I was paralyzed. So I have come a long way. And my true belief is that it's because of the things that I teach that I also practice myself that helped me recover faster, helped things resolve. And I think it's had to do with my heart-centered way of life and my mindset around what I'm here for and what things happen, like why they happen, and how there's something good inside everything.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Kumari, Dr. Valerie used to teach. She used to teach happiness in college.
Ah, I love that they now have a consciousness PhD. It just blows me away. It's beautiful. And your articulation of self-mastery is also beautiful. I may borrow it. It's 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 so impactful. I usually talk about it, if we can learn how to manage our energy, which really is our response and reaction, then our lives, it's not like life becomes easy when you're doing the inner work, the deeper work.
No.
I thought that for a long time. I was like, I'm doing all this, meditation and inner journey work. I'm doing that because I want to get to a place where the path is easy, where I'm not feeling pain and I'm not struggling. No, it's not how it plays out. So you're a perfect example of that, turning lemons into lemonade. It's really impactful to hear your story.
Thank you. And I was just like you, Kumari. I used to talk about, I want all of my life lessons to be easy and good experiences. And I was interviewing someone on my show many years ago, Andrew Harvey, and he, in the middle of the show, he said, "That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard." He said, "That's a very naive perspective, Valerie."
Yeah.
And I felt like I got a big fat slap across the face. And I didn't believe him for a long time. I mean, I kind of was like, why can't I want this? And I understand now it's not the promise. The promise is I'll be able to handle it. It's not that it's just going to be, my favorite things would be champagne and oysters all the time. So it's not that. I can guarantee that. Even in the best of times, there are things where I go, what on earth? And then I manage it.
I found a quote from somebody, not a quote, but a term that cracked me up. She was a coach and she called it crappertunity. embracing the crappertunities in your life. And I too thought I was doing all the spiritual practices and energy healing practices so I would get to a point where I wouldn't have struggle in my life. I'd sort of rise above it. And that word crappertunity kind of brings you slamming back to earth, but understanding that those struggles are your opportunity to demonstrate your self-mastery and that you have tools to do that. That's what's so amazing.
It is about demonstration. Like in my life, I want to make sure that I'm practicing the practices that I teach. Yeah. It's like I say, practicing what I preach and healing from what I teach. And so I want to be able to share what has worked for me. It doesn't mean it's going to work the same way for everyone. And it's not always the same time for them that it is in my journey. So things don't always unfold in the exact same way. But I'm sure having a good time, even in the middle of the opportunities.
You can see it. You're radiant.
That's awesome. So Valerie, what do you think that emotional freedom is?
Well, I talk about liberating yourself from the emotional junk in your trunk. It's step 2 of my 4-step process, which is in my book. Shake up and release the things that are not aligned with step 1. And step 1 is wake up to the truth of who you are. And so in our lives, especially here on the planet Earth and our human dimension, we get caught up in what we think it means to be who we are, be humans. And we're really integrated spiritual human persons. And so when we can bring into our human experience a higher vibration, a higher understanding of consciousness, then we can create in a completely different way. And emotional freedom is understanding like what makes you tick. The question that I ask people to contemplate is, who are you being when you think you're being you? Like, is that something you learned in second grade and haven't been able to let go of? Is that a trauma you had when you were 9? Is that something, I mean, I know that I have had some low vibration trauma-like remnants in me from ancestors who were enslaved people, from, you know, grandmothers, grandparents who had a way of looking at the world that was the result of racial dynamics, and teachers and athletic coaches and friends across the street. You know, there were some dynamics that created these little pockets of pain, and they're not good or bad or right or wrong, but they weren't serving me. They were actually running me ragged, I say in my book. And so emotional freedom is the ability to heal those things, forgive myself and everybody else involved in the equations, and then release them. And it's not a once and you're done thing, but the more I continue on this path of healing, forgiving, releasing, healing, forgiving, releasing, I feel lighter. I spiral up into my higher vibrations. And when we're at a higher vibration, we can't help but attract things that match that vibration. So get on with it. And so emotional freedom is letting go of the stuff that's holding you down and creating obstacles in your life.
And probably not blaming yourself when the crap opportunities happen.
Yeah, it's really not about blame, shame, guilt, and punishment. It's really about curiosity, openness, acceptance, receiving, like what's the gift in the crap opportunity that I can receive that then allows me to shift how I respond. And when I can do that, then whole new worlds open up.
I love that you said it's not one and done. I know I've been teaching healing for many years as well. And people will come to me and say, but I've already worked on this. You know, I've already released this. I've spent 20 years doing this. And
there's more.
I think I always use the onion layers, you know, it's like peeling an onion. We only can release what's that next layer that's available to us. But so many of us think, oh, I should be done with this. And we judge ourselves really harshly about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the layers of the layers of healing, they're only going to show up when we're actually ready.
Exactly.
And when we've got that spiritual maturity to actually go, oh, this is that thing again, rather than, oh my God, it's that thing again. It's like, oh, hello, you friend. I guess I'm at the stage where another good thing could come out of revisiting my relationship with this thing, pain or trauma or judgment or guilt or whatever it is. And there's something in this for me to go through it. And so I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah, meeting it with that attitude is totally different than saying, oh, this again. You know, saying, oh, this means I'm ready for another deeper layer of this healing around this issue. And I think that change in perspective changes everything.
Yes. And it took me a while to get to that
Me
perspective.
too.
I'm really grateful to have gotten there, because I can greet each kind of recurrence as new ground that I'm covering. And like you said, there's no need to beat ourselves up. It's not that we're so bad at it, or we didn't do it right previous times, or we're just not doing what we're supposed to. It's not about that. It's about, you know, I've made a commitment for my time on planet Earth, that I be a contributing factor of love, peace, joy, and freedom. And so I can't do that at the highest levels, kind of lugging around this backpack full of giant boulders, emotional weights. And not only can I not do it, my life isn't fun that way. And so, going through the extra layer to let some more go and spiral further up, and go through another layer and let some more go and spiral further up. To me, it's a pretty good plan.
It is, and applying the love and the peace and the wisdom, applying all that to yourself in that moment. That's the key, right? Rather than judging self and just saying, oh, here's something else that I have the opportunity to work with and learn from, rather than, oh my gosh, here I go again. Why aren't I done with this?
Yes. Lovingly going through it is pretty key. And I also bring in the big guns. So, there are times when I don't feel adequate or fortified. And I sometimes am flowing emotions that are fatigue and upset and discombobulation, and sometimes the old resentment energy and the old pity party. And I don't say pity party like we should never have them. We just don't want to hang out there. And so that stuff comes up from time to time. And then I pick up the phone, and first of all, I do my thing. When the going gets tough, get going into gratitude. So I start figuring out, like, what do I have to be grateful for in this moment? And if I can always find one thing, even if it's, I'm grateful that I'm aware that I'm in a really angry mood right now. Help, I call one of my spiritual counselors or advisors, and we have a good conversation, and I, dissect things and get another perspective and keep going. And Olympic athletes often have multiple coaches. So I have no problem calling in someone to help refine my perspective and help me spiral up.
It's so important. MarBeth and I wouldn't have businesses or teachings or practices either if everybody could just do it themselves, including us. We need to own that, that just because you are a healer or have an amazing awareness doesn't mean you're always your best foot forward for yourself. And knowing when to ask for help is really key. So I'm glad you said that.
Oh, yeah. I have asked Kumari for help.
Same. Yeah, I think when the longer we go along this path, the wiser we get and the quicker we want to shift it. So that's when we reach out. We don't need to struggle as much as on our own. Yeah.
So is that what you mean by a spiritual bypass? What do you mean by that?
So spiritual bypass is this thing that I used to do when I would, one of my former teachers used to say, just to get all holy on it. And what she was referring to was when I would, in my impatience, want to move forward at lightning speed, I would just want to see a situation and just say some prayers over it and have it all go away. And I think a spiritual bypass fits into Andrew Harvey's admonishment that I was a little bit spiritually immature in terms of wanting it all to be easy and to have things just land and be done. And a bypass is when, when I might do a meditation and come out of the meditation and say, okay, taking care of that, moving on to the next thing. And so it's a way that we can use our practices, whether it's forgiveness practice, gratitude practice, meditation practice, whatever practice it is, where we can use that, insert it, and feel like we did the practice, so everything's healed now, and just feel like there's no more dance to do with whatever that, aspect of the not self is. And so what I have found is in those cases where I've done a spiritual bypass, that thing usually comes back and it usually rears its ugly head. Well, it usually rears its head at an even louder, like more prominent way. It's almost like, as my mom and I would say, the 2x4 in the head. It's a way that my life says, you're not done with this, girlfriend. So not only is it coming up again, it's coming up again at the same place it was when I thought I took care of it last time, because I didn't take care of it that time. I really just kind of did a leapfrog over it. And none of that old energy moved or dissolved or was healed or forgiven. And so it's still there, and maybe at a little bit louder strength, because it wants to get my attention so that I get the beauty out of it and the lesson out of it, and can evolve my consciousness as a result of having spent time diagnosing it and healing it and befriending it, etc.
It's one of my favorite topics, spiritual bypass, because I've met so many people who kind of lay that on you when you're struggling, or feeling things that are not, all the healing techniques and the practices are not really touching it. And if you express those real, authentic, negative, quote unquote, negative feelings, they'll just be like, oh, you're not thinking positive, or, oh, you're attracting this because you're being negative. Feeling, sometimes healing needs feeling in order to move it through. And a lot of people take the teachings and then apply them exactly as you described. And it's sort of leapfrogging over the energy of the problem that needs a bit more of integration or awareness or processing. And a lot of people will kind of try to talk you out of that.
And I believe what you said about healing needs the feeling. Only I would just get rid of the word sometimes. I think it's all the time that we aren't leveraging our feelings enough. And I don't know what other people's training was in their early years, but it can sometimes be beaten out of us that we should be ruled by our hearts, and don't let your emotions run away with you. And you should spend more time in your intellect and less time in your emotions. And in some cases, the intellect is definitely where we should go and lead from. And in most cases, we should be leading from the heart, and the head should be in service to the heart. I like Albert Einstein's quote, the conscious mind is a faithful servant, and the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. We have created a society that worships the servant and has forgotten the gift. And the reason I started teaching my curriculum at the college level was to help these, powerhouse intellectual people learn to integrate left and right brain and head and heart, and to tune into this powerful guidance system that is actually supposed to be the master to this incredible supercomputer sitting atop these very strong necks of ours.
Thank you for doing that work. That's really important work.
It is. So Valerie, you have an event coming up in France?
I do. I'm very excited about it. It's called the Glow Up Experience, Mind, Body, Spirit Activation to Restore Your Wholeness and Return You to Flow. Nice long title. And yes, it's a 7-day immersion where we help people go deep into what's been going on, diagnose situational dynamics and aspects of the self that are causing them upset or getting in the way, and help them try on some different integrative practices, release practices that help them spiral to a higher level and get on with life in a different way that turns out to be more successful, more fulfilling, more peaceful, all the things we want more of.
So how do people get in touch with you?
Very easy. They just go to glowupworld.com they can find out all the different aspects of what this experience is going to be like. And we've extended the early bird tuition rates, and we've got some sponsors who come in to help people underwrite it. And there's a calendar link there, and people can get on my calendar for a quick chat. Whether they want to go to the retreat or not, come to the calendar, let's have a chat and see if any of my other things might help them as well.
That sounds amazing. And thank you so much for joining us today on our Imagine Peace podcast, sponsored by 10 Million for World Peace. So
thank you for having me. Many blessings to you and the audience.
It feels like such an honor to be with you here today. Thank you.
Imagine Peace is brought to you by 10 Million for World Peace. Join our daily 7-minute guided meditations for world peace and monthly healing circles at 10millionforworldpeace.org. Together we can create a peaceful, happy planet.